Now, okay, so why are some of these people that Pliny is interrogating, why are they willing to get crucified for this? You willing to get crucified for a religion that makes you pay your debts on time? Like, to Pliny's mind, it's just completely bonkers. So like, he's like, no, this can't be it, right? Because, like, here's this testimony. That testimony can't be right. If they're willing to like be hung up on a cross for this, crazy. Because of which, it's really more like an ablative cause, from which, by which, I believed, tricky here, I like to infer an id. Id. By which I believed it more necessary. This is the hardest syntactical, grammatical moment we have. From which I believed it more necessary. More necessary. What is more necessary? I'm going to go with the infinitive, and it's far away, and you're going to be angry, but it's actually very nice. From which I believed it more necessary to seek out. To seek out, and there are a number of different ways you can go from here. To seek out from 2 slave girls who were called ministers what was of truth, even through torture. Now there it is. Ugliness, but also really important information. This is one of the pretty, like the sentence right here, right? I'm not telling you to tweet at the Pope, but like maybe, right? So, from which I believed it more necessary to seek out from 2 slave girls who were called ministers. Do you see that word? From 2 slave girls who were called ministers, what there was of truth, even through torments, tortures. I found nothing other than a depraved and immoderate superstition. These 2 lines, they get me. There's so much here. Firstly, look at this little clause here, right? This is just kind of extra teeny little bit of information, right? This is just like Pliny, who, of course, is in the classical tradition. It's not a big deal to see women as ministers, as priestesses. Not a big deal, right? One of the most important critical cults in Roman public life was the cult of Vesta, which is all women. They were all women priestesses. So it's not at all weird or crazy that women are ministers, priestesses, right? So this is just an extra little bit of information that he could have maybe even just left out for us, right? But here it is. Here it is. Now, and it's not just women who were called ministers, right? And I'm not sure if you are aware of like what happens to the Christian religion not too long after this, but women in Rome, in the Catholic priesthood, in the West, they are not allowed to be priests. And still, I mean, it's controversial to even talk about this. If you were to ask the Pope, and he was recently in February, whether women could become deaconesses in the Catholic Church, he said that that women should have access to positions that can, quote, better signify the role that is theirs, end quote. Ooh. Ooh. So, here are women if he's going to figure out what's going on, he needs some first-person information. He needs to go to some sort of leadership in the Christian movement. And who does he need? Whom does he need? First of all, women. Second of all, slave girls. This is very critical in the kind of bigger questions about how does Christianity come to overwhelm and replace the classical tradition. I like to think of kind of blind spots that societies have. And here is a Roman blind spot. Romans don't see slaves as humans, right? They're property. And this early Christian movement, where does he find them? Where does he find the leaders? In a class that is completely subjugated and oppressed. Completely. And in a gender, right, that Romans don't typically see. They don't acknowledge. And in order to find out what is going on in this new religion, he goes to slave girls who were called ministers. That's a pretty fascinating piece of information. And it's significant how he gets this information. How does he get them? How does he get it? And we talked about Roman citizenship, right? If you're a citizen, you get some notion of due process. But what did you see here? Torments, torture. He gets information from these slave girls by means of torture. He can do that. Why? Because of their status, that they are slave girls. So, in the population that the Romans aren't concerned with because they don't see them as people, this new religion is spreading. And since it's in a demographic that the Roman privileged male here doesn't acknowledge in any meaningful way, except as something that they can get information through via torture, he's totally dismissive. Right? This sentence here, I discovered nothing other than a depraved and immoderate superstition. If you don't know what those words are, then you should just look them up. Right? But he's dismissing everything they're saying, that he's just tortured these human beings, and all he gets out of it is information that leads him to the conclusion that what they're doing is a superstition, which is just an outlandish, crazy religious idea. And it's immoderate. It's excessive. It's excessive because, in Pliny's mind, because they're willing to die. They're willing to be crucified so they can swear to pay off credit card debts. Right? So there are a lot of things in the Roman mind here that just equal confusion and silliness. But there are some radical things in here.